All right. Let me know if you can't hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. The stream is acting a little bit strange today, so hopefully everything goes well. I'm looking at it on Facebook, and it is so bad. The quality is horrible. I don't know if that's just me or what, but so pixelated and horrible. But anyways, we'll see. Is that what it looks? I don't know. I'm just gonna get off of there and hope that I'm not messing this whole thing up. So that went probably like most of us expected, right? Isn't that kind of what we were thinking? I believe I even said 25-14 would be the final. Granted, I said like three different scores, and 25 is a super ridiculous number. So if we just kind of file that down to a number that actually makes sense, I pretty much nailed the score exactly. I mean, again, I said 25-10, 25-14, 25-17, a couple different numbers. Point is, 24-14 is obviously what I meant. So nailed that. No, but again, I feel like I'm saying the same thing every single week. It's just the nonstop nature of the Packers, and it's so good to see that they just don't quit. And all things considered, against a tough defense, they put up 24 points. That's fine. And again, we can get on the defense, but they only allowed 14 points. And that's, again, no Za'Darius, no Jair. Kenny went down at one point. Preston was out for a portion of this game, got injured. Darnell Savage went out for the remainder of the game with a concussion. We lost our center in the game. So, I mean, it's the same thing as every week, man. It's constant trials, constant struggles, constant battles, plenty of things to be frustrated about. And the glass half empty crowd has plenty to be upset with, and it's fair so long as we understand properly the perspective that this was a very solid team effort and a very solid win. Special teams I thought looked good. We saw Bajorquez kick, I believe, the second best punt in Green Bay Packers history. And I thought that was going to be a terrible punt, by the way, because when I saw that come off his foot, I'm like, dude, that is a line drive. That is not good. Fortunately, the guy didn't catch it, so it went over his head, so it was able to bounce, because usually you kick a line drive, if the guy catches it, there's nobody around for miles. But he line drived it over the guy's head. So that was fantastic. Crosby was flawless, which is great. Not that we put him in any real tough predicaments as far as long field goals or anything, but that was fine. We even saw Amari get involved a little bit today. He had a good return, and finally got a reception, which I thought that was just super clean. The coverage was terrible. The punt and kick coverage was terrible, but again, even special teams got involved in it. I thought the offense got off to a slow start, which is it's sort of like every single game so far. They can't run the ball to start the game, like, at all. And Aaron Rodgers kind of has to bail the team out, or the scheme, or whatever it is, throwing screens, throwing this, throwing that, the occasional 20-yard slant to Devontae, just to keep things alive. But once you get into the second half, they start to wear down that defense, and you start to see Aaron and especially A.J. Dillon just ripping this whole thing apart. So we're kind of getting to see the same thing happen every single week. But again, you look back on it and say, I don't know, that was kind of close or whatever. It's 24-14, dude. It's a 10-point win. I don't know what more we can expect than that. With a division rival, with a top 10 defense, 24-14, I think is completely fine. Turning over to the comments. Thank you guys so much for joining in, by the way. Eamon says, that was a fun win, LFG Pack. Daniel says, stoked for the win, just sad Cobb didn't have a pair of touchdowns. I was a little bit too. I very rarely saw him out there. I saw him on a couple different times, but probably a good thing, man. He was mostly just a decoy, because obviously the Bears just wanted to shut him down, probably more than Devontae. Goose says, go, Pack, go. Johnny B says, Rodgers screaming to the stands, I still own you, was iconic. That's got to be in Bears-Packers rivalry video for years to come. So I didn't hear that live. I heard something, and my son was saying, he was screaming. I was like, all right, I heard some kind of a yell, but I didn't hear what it was. I was probably still cheering and screaming myself, so I missed it. There are still some people who are insisting he said, I still love you, but it sounds like predominantly people are, especially the ones that went back and listened to it a second, third time, said it sounds like I still own you. I haven't done a T-shirt in a while. everybody else is going to come out with their I Still Own You T-shirt, but I need to be on top of that, so I might do that tonight. Have somebody work on that. I've also got a couple other ideas for shirts that I think would be pretty cool. If you guys know anybody, by the way, let me know. I mean, I can get designers, but I just don't like Teespring very much. I'd like to have somebody that prints their own shirts. But anyways, let's see. Goose says Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. Can we get a I Still Own You? Yeah, you kind of got it. I'm not going to do impressions for you or whatever. Ron says Kenny is the man. Dude, Kenny just locked it down. Things were starting to get a little out of hand. I mean, the DBs were so depleted. The pass rush was really starting to lack for quite a while, and as a result, people were finding those big openings. But Kenny and Garvin just locked the whole defense down, especially Kenny. But Garvin, too. I mean, even on that last sack, Garvin was the one chasing him and forced him to break the pocket and run. Jason, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Says weekly donation. Game was blacked out here. Sorry to hear that, Jason. But I really do appreciate that. Thank you. But yeah, though, I mean, it just saved it. And again, it's not perfect, and you don't expect it to be perfect. You don't have Za'Darius again, who is your number one pass rusher on the team. You don't have your number one corner. You don't maybe even have your number two corner. You don't have your starting safety. It's a big problem. And for Kenny to just step up, and that's the whole point, find a way to win these games. Kenny stepped up and just started going absolutely insane and just terrorized Justin Fields to the point where some of the time he just, as the announcers pointed out a couple times, he just drops his eyes right away and starts running. And I don't think he's developed enough, if he's ever going to get there, to be the kind of guy that can, kind of take off and run and see the play and throw off he's not doing that. At best, he can stand in a clean pocket and distribute the ball to somebody who's 15 yards or close. I don't know what that means. Jacob, thank you so much for liking the stream. Carissa, thank you for liking the stream. I'm not sure how many of these are new, but Ron, Paula, Garrett, and we'll cut it off there. Thank you guys for liking the stream. Kenny was double-teamed all day. The few times he had one-on-ones, he dominated, says Daniel. I didn't see it that closely, but I'll take your word for it because he was just an absolute wrecking ball. I was not super thrilled with the overall tackling and just kind of not locking things down. But again, when it mattered, they got it done. So many times when we went up, I think it was like 17 to 7-ish or whatever, you just kind of knew that the defense was just going to be giving up big chunks, and the Bears consistently, like 3 different drives, marched all the way down the field, but they only got 7 points after all that. So pretty fantastic of the defense. Again, a lot of just not clean, giving way too many yards, not tackling, all that stuff. But again, when it matters, you got Garvin, you got Kenny, you got guys making plays, and that's all you need. The game comes down to points. That's it. Mary and Chris, thank you so much for liking the stream on Facebook. I greatly appreciate that. Mr. Blue Sky 336 says, that's the most beautiful thing I've heard all day. I think we're still talking about the Rodgers quote. Goose says, what is wrong with our offensive line? I don't know. Injuries and Bears defense kind of causes some problems sometimes. I know in the beginning of the game we couldn't run the ball, which has been a problem all year. The offensive line's run blocking has been terrible all year. A lot of the passing, I think, was guys not getting open because Rodgers held the ball way too long. And on a couple of those, he started getting scared. He just started dropping. He just started panicking. He's like, nope, and he just fell to the ground. One of those times, I think the time Akeem came clean, he knew that the rush was coming. He kind of dropped and then realized, oh, he's not here yet, picked himself back up and then dropped again. I get it. I'm not being chased by Akeem Hicks. I'm sure I'd be scared too, but it's like, come on, dude. Stand in there for 1 second and get somebody. I'm sure that the route was a very quick route to get somebody open. But whatever. We won the game. All right. There isn't enough Pepto to help me watch another game like this. Yeah, I think we're going to have to get used to this. This is just what it is, at least until we start getting some guys back. Fortunately, it did end on a pretty high note. It's always scary, and that's the reason why these games are so stressful. Even when you're up by 14 points or 10 points or whatever the game may be, it's still far from over. Even if there's like 2.5 minutes left, all they got to do is get a touchdown and get a stop and get a touchdown. And there's so much time left in the game, so it's hard to not have any stress in any games. Some teams pull it off. I mean, you see it every single week. Chiefs won 31-13. But again, at like halftime, Washington was winning. So there's still stress. Giants LA won 38-11. But the Giants were winning, probably not at halftime, but at one point, and it's just one of those things too, where when the Bears went up 7-0, I'm watching this going, oh, this is horrible. Here we go. But everybody went through that. The Giants were winning, Washington was winning, all these, and then they just come back and they win. And that's kind of what the Packers did, just not to such a spectacular fashion. Gabriel says, nice prediction this morning. I was a little worried, but chilled in the first quarter, remembering they always do. Yeah, and the second quarter especially is every single game. That's when the Packers are at their best. This game is no different. It was only 10 points, and they managed to get 7 and 7 after that, which is great. But first quarter, they're usually terrible. Second quarter is their best. Third and fourth is kind of kicking it into neutral, and you kind of hope that your defense can kind of step up, because the offense will do something, but probably not enough to stop the opponent if they go on a tear. So the defense has to kind of stiffen a little bit. Goose says the defense did a great job aside from sometimes not holding contain. That was brutal, man. The amount of times guys just cut back, reversed field, and ran for 20 yards was like, what the heck are we doing here? Nothing wrong with the line, but injuries, says Lupe. Yeah, I mean, again, they're doing fine. I wish the run blocking was a little bit better. But again, usually by the second half, the defense tires down enough that our offensive line can start pushing guys out of the way. But a brand spanking new, fresh defensive line, especially the ones that we've been facing, our guys just really can't match up. And it causes problems because we can't run the ball, and they're not doing anything special. They're just rushing their usual 4, and we can't run against that. So they drop everybody into coverage, and then Rodgers can't find anybody open because there are so many people in coverage. And that's when, after 3.5, 4 seconds, somebody starts coming off the edge, and that's when sacks start to happen. So, it's just it's tough out there, and our offensive line is depleted and young. Goose says, I'd argue Newman is struggling. I mean, he's kind of been bad all year. He hasn't really done much positive. I think he might have had one decent game, but yeah, he's really having a hard time. Gabriel says the offense is mostly running through Devontae in the backs, encouraging for the future, I think. That's 100%. I would agree with that. Rodgers, I thought, was mediocre in this game. He did fine. He did enough, but again, it was one of those things where when things stopped working, it was usually me going, Rodgers, come on, dude, why? Why? You got A.J. Dillon wide open in the flat. He could probably run for a touchdown. If not, for a first down. If not, it's going to be like 3rd and 1. Just dump it off to him. Instead, he throws to double-covered Tunyon, or, I don't get it. Why? Why do you have to do that? The play before that, he misses Lazard. He missed Devontae deep. It's like, I got to take it. It's right there. I know I can do it. And he couldn't do it today. He could not hit any of the deep passes. There were a couple decent chunks to Devontae, mostly when he was wide open and mostly when he was getting a lot of yards after the catch. But I just don't like when he feels the need to push it, especially when we don't need to. And he's starting to hate the checkdowns. Even when he threw those checkdowns to like Mercedes, immediately you can see that they vacate the area of Mercedes. They're like, throw it to him, please throw it to him. Why don't you throw it to him? And then 5 seconds later, he's like, fine, I'll throw it to him. It's like, dude, just take it. Everything's working. The offense is working. The scheme is working. Everything's going great. Just calm down. Take the yards. Everything's fine. But sometimes he just insists on trying to take chunks. And it just, when you miss a guy, and it's, so if you run on first down, you don't really get anywhere. And then you miss a guy. Now it's 3rd and 10. Now it feels like it's done already. Just let the offense do what it's doing, because it's working really, really well. We don't need you to play hero ball randomly in the middle of a game, right? If we need you, I'm glad we have you. But if we don't need you, don't do that. Goose says he also owns the Lions and some Scandinavians with weird helmets. Ha. Lupe says Newman hits the bench once Bach is back, get Jenkins back to guard, and Runyon takes over at right guard. I would assume Elton Jenkins is going to be probably taking the right tackle spot. Could be wrong, but he should be a tackle at his level of play. And Billy Turner, I think, is better at guard than tackle anyways. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe they won't try to do that, but I think that would make the most sense. Caden says, all I want in life is for Amari to run a jet sweep. Yeah, I mean, that play was so clean. I've been saying for a while, they keep running it and running it and running it and not throwing it to him. One of these days they're going to do it, but I mean, he took off like a rocket. It was so smooth. He was running and the pass was right there and he catches it. He didn't slow down for a second. It wasn't like a pause and catch and turn and run. He just kept moving, and he's a bigger dude, so he's breaking some of the tackles. That was clean, and I'm excited to see that continue to develop because I think that can be really something. And it's the same week that he started doing things on punts and whatnot. He had a really nice punt return, I thought, kind of, first of all, just running straight ahead, which is all I really ask him to do ever, but kind of breaking a few tackles. I'm excited to see that continue to grow. Goose says, I'll buy that shirt. Good, because I want it too. All righty. Jacob, is the Discord chat compromised? We've got an Aaron Jones signed mini helmet next week. I don't know. What's going on in the Discord chat? I have no idea. I don't see anything. All right. But we got an Aaron Jones signed mini helmet next week, so get in on that. That'll probably be, I'm guessing, Jacob, a Instagram thing, right? I'm kind of just letting you run with Instagram from now on because, I don't know, nothing else works. Andy says, passes to 7 receivers, including Josiah and Amari. Yep, that's pretty awesome. It was nice to see Josiah get a little bit involved. The other thing that I noticed was the weird internal blocking by the motion tight end. A lot of times it was Josiah, but whoever it was, he come across basically to about where the center is and then would cut up the middle of the offensive line and start blocking. It's not a thing that I'm really used to seeing. They ran that a ton. It seemed like it with pretty resounding success, too. Rogers, I still love you, Brandon. Is that what he said? That could be what he said. Blaine says, I think Newman is having assignment issues. Yeah, that right side of the line in general, there was just a lot of confusion, and it seemed like probably was a lot of his issues with Billy kind of passing a guy off, and he's just not looking. He's looking over this way or whatever. Whereas, obviously, with this zone kind of thing, you need to just be in your area and keep your head on a swivel, not be locked into that guy over there, because when this guy gets passed off and you're not paying attention, duh. So, yeah, he definitely needs to clean that up. The whole offensive line does, but he in particular does. Chris says, secondary depleted and 2 starting edges down, and Chicago struggled on offense. Can't ask for much more. Chicago just love having average offenses. Well, that is quite a compliment, calling that an average offense, because that is pathetic, and Justin Fields still looks like garbage no matter what anybody says. That was a garbage performance. Again, the only thing he does is throw to wide open guys, run the ball, and occasionally has a couple decent passes, usually on like quick out routes, and he has nobody in his face. Luke, thank you very much for the $4.99 super chat. That is very greatly appreciated. Caden says the Packers will be the most prepared team for playoff football. Yeah, tell me about it. This is, again, I want to get our guys back healthy and start playing some high-quality football, a little bit better than what we're doing. But, man, this is every week is playoff football, and we're undefeated in the playoffs so far. And Charlie says, what a punt by Happy Gilmore. I like that. We might have to work with that a little bit. I kind of like that. Brandon says, 1 point off your prediction. Not bad, Ryan. Yeah, the whole time during the game I was thinking, why did I say 25? I kind of just picked like a general range. I wasn't like thinking logically about points that you would get. It's just kind of like I feel like 25-ish and 14-ish. But then even after I said it, I'm like, how do you even get to 25? Like just a bunch of field goals or missed extra points, or what are we doing here? But yeah, I'm happy with it. Daniel says, do you think Bojorquez is able to kick the ball out of the end zone on the kickoffs? It would be great. I think we need to explore that, because every single time when they kick it and they pull it out of the end zone, it's like, stop. Why are we doing this? I mean, if Mason just can't quite get enough leg, I don't know, because I don't know. Sometimes you want to kick it a little bit short because you want him to take it out. We should never want him to take it out. They got it to the 26, 27, 28, 30 every single time, no matter how deep they took it out of the end zone. So, yeah, we should be blasting it out of the back every single time if we can. And, again, if Mason can't do it, see if Bojorquez can do it. I don't care what you got to do. Never let them return anything ever again. TV says Matt LaFleur is undefeated against Chicago. I didn't even know that, but that makes a lot of sense. That's an awesome little tidbit. Garrett says Jones and Dillon did flash some big runs to help keep the offense going. Yeah, and again, this has been my thing for a while with Dillon in particular is he's always slow out of the gate, but once you get him going, once you get that 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th carry, you start to see him start to rip some stuff off. And I don't think there's been a game where he hasn't had some level of impact, whether it's on screen passes, picking up first downs, or some big chunk runs, or in this game, I mean, he had some big chunk runs, but ultimately it was just grinding the clock down. And it matters, on games like this where if you don't get that first down, it goes 3 and out, and they get the ball back. The game's not over. So you need a guy that can do that. And I've been kind of upset or skeptical about his use of power. He's got it, but not as much as he should for as big as he is. He's not anywhere near Mercedes Lewis, for example. But on some of those runs toward the end there, he was breaking arm tackles. He was dragging everybody. It was a beautiful sight to see. That's the A.J. Dillon you want to see more of. So very excited about that. Pedro says the defense did a good job, but I'm worried about the tackling. Tackling was not good, man. I mean, there was just a whole lot of the hand is on them, right? Sometimes it's two hands and they just slip out, and these are not always the biggest guys. I mean, they had a really small running back that I thought they should have been able to bring down. Obviously, there was, I think it was Dean on Justin Fields had a hand on him, and I know that's tough, but you got to be able to just rip him down, and that was a big play. He ripped it off for 20-ish yards or something. Scott and Zachary, thank you very much for liking the stream. I appreciate that. Actually, Zachary, thank you for following. Thanks for doing that. That's awesome. Rodgers got the job done against a tough defense. Be quiet. Well, no. He didn't say be quiet. He said shush, but I didn't want to make the sound. No, I mean, he did fine. That's just the one critique. I mean, in a game like this where everything it just has to be almost perfect all the way down the field, and he's got a guy. You've got to just take it. Just take the easy yards. It's right there, and especially when it's A.J. Dillon open in the flat, 100% take that every single time. If they're going to give you a 5-6 yard cushion with A.J. Dillon, first of all, no matter who it is, take 5 or 6 yards. Second of all, he's probably going to get a first down on that. I just don't get, and again, Tunyon was not open. So, I mean, if he's open down the field, cool, launch it. But he wasn't. So that is a critique. And in a game that's a little bit closer, if the Bears did go down and score and all that stuff, that could end up hurting you. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't bad. It's just there's a couple times where it's like, come on, man, you got to stop with that. It's too much. Michael, thank you very much for liking the stream. Eamon says, I bet Amari will stop leaving his undershirt tucked out after getting caught by it on that reception today. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to have it untucked. Goose says, yeah, I'm not a big fan of hero ball. If you need it, fine. If you don't need it, don't do it, right? You don't need it, don't do it. Especially if it's Devontae and he's got a step, fine. You guys have got a great connection, whatever, but a lot of these, it was not Devontae, and he did not have a step, and they were not open, and he was just not very accurate on deep passes. So I know, you're Aaron Rodgers, and you feel like I can do anything, and you know how awesome it's going to be if we complete this, and it was. Especially on that final drive, we had some really big passes that obviously helped us, but I don't know. It just gets to be a little old. Douglas came in for Yadam, and the defense got a lot better, I thought. Kind of reminded me of a player halfway between Jair and Stokes with Stokes without as high a ceiling. Definitely agree. Yadam is just a massive liability out there, and it got real quiet once they pulled him. I didn't really notice it happening until somebody messaged me and said that they thought Douglas was doing a good job, which is a good thing because I didn't even notice him, right? And again, as frustrating as the DBs were at times, or the corners were at times, I had to remind myself every time they didn't complete a pass, be happy with what your corners did on that play. Peter, thank you for liking the stream. Because again, sometimes we don't think about the corners until they give up a pass, and it's like, oh, he's such a bum. Dude, there were just 15 plays where he didn't give up a pass. He might have just won 15 times in a row. Give him some credit. So yeah, it did get real quiet. Stokes gave up a couple, but after a while, again, just nothing. So kudos to really to all these guys, because again, the injuries are so bad that you got guys coming in that don't really know their roles and their assignments, and they're really struggling with depth and rising to the occasion. Vikings missed the field goal to go into overtime. What's going on? I gave up on that game. It is 28-28. Vikings I better pull that up real quick. I was going to look at the stats, but forget that. I want to see what's happening. I thought the game was over. They were up by 8 and they had the ball, and I was like, Carolina's got to get the ball back, score a touchdown, and get 2 points. I doubt that'll happen. Apparently it did. Where are we at? Here we go. I could pull it up on Red Zone, but I don't want to mess up my stream. Goose says, how about Dylan hammering it at the end? Yeah, I mean, that's a huge asset, especially, when you don't need to use, oh, man. Who's got the ball? Oh, it's Minnesota. Oh, that stinks. When you don't need to grind down Aaron Jones, you got a guy that you can rely on to really just pound the ball like that and get those extra yards, and just tell Aaron Jones, give him a nice pat on the helmet and say he had a great game, and let him just sit the rest of the game out and trust that A.J. Dillon will get the job done. It feels so good. Elton back to guard. Quinn ate his lunch. I didn't really get a chance to see the offensive line do much, but obviously we got to see all the bad stuff. I didn't notice Elton do anything bad, but I couldn't really tell. I think Big E is still working his way back from injury, says Goose. Max says, I like the gritty wins the last few weeks. Makes my heart beat faster during the game, but I like the way the team responds. I mean, when it's done, it feels better. In the game, it feels horrible, right? Because it's a lot of negative. That's what a gritty win is, I mean, it's hard fought. The other team gets a lot of good plays here and there, and you make mistakes and you miss tackles. And but again, at the end, it feels so good to know that you got a team that you can rely on that's not just going to cash it in. TV says, I hope Matt Nagy sticks around a long time. Man, so do I. I really do. That team is just not doing it. And I know they're all excited about Laser, but I mean, whatever makes you happy, just keep doing it. Goose says what he meant on the Discord is that in the Packernet team Discord, he can't access the business tab. Oh, I have no idea. I have not hardly touched that. I every once in a while notice a comment, go in there and comment, but I haven't touched it, I promise. Joe Momo says, I didn't think the Packers was going to win after all the people who walked out hurt. Yeah, I mean, it was bad. I mean, when you're already struggling and it's not looking super great, even if you got the win, it's like, I don't know, man, the defense is not really stopping them, and the offense can't really do much against this defense. They're starting to get fired up. The crowd's starting to get fired up, and then you watch Savage go out, and then you see on your phone Preston went out, and it's like, I don't know how they're going to get this done, which, again, that's something we got to keep in mind. It's understandable if they just don't win at that point, but they did. They overcame all that, and they still won the game, and that really, guys like Black who went out there and filled in at safety and got the job done. I mean, maybe some of those big passes were because he messed up. I don't know, maybe. But again, they did enough and got it done. Brandon says they have to stop kicking off short. Yeah, that's kind of what we were talking about. I don't know if that's on purpose or he just is not getting enough leg into it or what, but if they can kick it out of the end zone, that has to happen every time. I mean, the 25 is awesome, especially against this offense. Don't give them any opportunities. I trust our defense to stop them if we can get them at the 35. You just don't want them starting at the 40. The punt returner was making us look silly. Just the whole thing was brutal. Oh, it's over. Stupid Vikings. Whatever. Punt returner was making it. Yeah, I saw that already. Jones has been a huge part of this offense. Jones is always good for a couple really big gains. Couple big plays here and there, just certain things that shouldn't have. That touchdown it wasn't going anywhere. I don't understand how that even happened. Some of those big runs, you just never know. Anytime he touches the ball, no matter what the offensive line looks like or the defense looks like, you never know until the play's over if it's going to be a big play or not. Because there are times, I mean, even when there's nowhere to go, every once in a while he'll bounce it to the outside and he'll get 15 yards. So, man, it's so much fun watching that guy. Daniel says Lowry had a decent game. Fun to see. He did. I was pretty surprised with Lowry kind of blowing up a lot of different plays. It was real nice to see. Packers are 5-1, says Brandon. If in the offseason you would have been told that, would you not have jumped all over that bet? Oh, yeah, 5-1 is perfect. I mean, I would be assuming that this team is right back where they were last year, or better. I would never have thought the offense isn't quite where it is and the defense has a bunch of injuries and all that stuff. Even assuming this is going to be a real good team, I would have said 5-1 is reasonable. Jacob says Campbell once again had some awesome plays. Guy's a beast. Yeah, he did. I wish he had a little bit of help. There's a couple times he's trying to make solo tackles, and you'd like to see a little bit more swarming, but he's always there and he's always making plays. Gabriel says Lowry's been playing a lot better, which is nice to see. Agreed. Barnes had a rough game this week. I only noticed Barnes once, and it was a good play, so I don't really know for sure. I know Burks had a rough game. Barnes, I didn't really notice. Again, aside from that one really good play. Goose says when the offense snaps together, the team is going to be lethal. Yeah, I think the only issue is that they're kind of slow moving. You know, I mean, if they could just do what we saw in like the second and fourth quarters, for 4 quarters, this team is unstoppable. Also, let's not forget that the last 3 teams we faced are the Bears, the Steelers, and the 49ers. Or, well, there's the Lions are mixed in there. I don't remember the exact order, but I mean, those are some really tough defenses. So, yeah, I mean, it's not perfect, but factor in the injuries, factor in the defenses, and there's every reason to believe that we're going to see this continue to get better. All right. I found a Packer bar right before the game so I could actually watch it. It says, too old for this. When Rodgers threw up the belt, the place erupted, and the one Bears fan left. Where's that at, man? Where's what state or country or whatever are you in? Luke says, where was the Packers bar? There you go. That's what I was wondering. This team is crazy injured. Once we get guys back, those tough wins should hopefully become a bigger differential. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And again, it's a 10-point win. I'm not mad about that. It's not like we won on a last-second field goal. It was mostly nerve-wracking because what if? What if they get a touchdown, and then what if they get a stop, and then what if they score again? But it never happened. The Packers had the lead pretty much the entire game. Luke says good coaches win regardless of injuries. I mean, at some point there's a breaking point, but yeah, I mean, a lot of credit goes to the coaching staff as far as the game plans to mitigate the injuries and to make things work and make adjustments. And I mean, it's from the coaches to the players. Everybody's just got to play 4 quarters and prepare properly, and they've done that. Too old for this says the Packers bar I was at was called Gabe's in the park in St. Paul, Minnesota. Oof. That's brutal territory out there, but I guess they're not playing the Vikings, so who cares? Brian, I think, says Oren was horrendous. Only one worse was Yadam. Yeah, Yadam I know was bad, and I know Oren was bad. Trying to think if anybody else stood out as just having a terrible day. Well, Newman, I guess. Matt says offensive line looked bad today. Bears D got on them early, but they turned it around. Yeah, Rodgers didn't really have a lot of time for most of the game, but when he did, things seemed to work. So, I mean, yeah, the offensive line struggled. But again, this is the number 1 pass rush unit in the NFL right now, going up against a hodgepodge offensive line that lost its center, like right in the beginning of the game. So, you're correct, but it's also understandable. Brandon says Mason made his kicks, underrated that he bounced back. No, I was after that first touchdown on the extra point. That was when I was the most scared. After that, yeah, he seems fine. And again, it was the fact that he didn't really have to do much. I mean, his longest kick was what, like 38 yards or something. Not bad at all. It's nice that we didn't put him in a situation to have to kick a 54-yarder, and then he missed that, and then that messes with his head. He had a bunch of extra points and a 30-some-odd yarder, under 40, I think. He drilled that, and yeah, I mean, again, we gave him the game winner, and then hasn't missed since. So I'm hoping he's just 100% back, and they can just move on from that. Snow says, when Bakhtiari comes back, do you think Jenkins will play at guard, or should we move Jenkins over to right tackle? My preference is Jenkins to right tackle. Billy's not doing a terrible job. He really isn't. And so I wouldn't be mad either way. If we want to fortify that left side and kind of go back to the way we had it with him there and Elton at left guard, I'm not going to be mad about it because they did such a good job, and to be so dominant off of that side and especially just running the ball over there and everything else, that's fine. But I thought Billy did it, especially last year. He's kind of, when he was at a point where I kind of appreciated him, he was playing right guard. And if we can get Elton Jenkins over there and have 2 really good tackles, I think we could be in a pretty good spot to really clean up a lot of the stuff we're seeing along the offensive line. But whatever. But I did think Billy also did a good job with pulling, which he's going to do at guard. That's part of the reason they got him, is he's pretty athletic. So if you can get him on the move, I don't know. That would be my preference, but I'm not going to be mad either way. All right. Brian, I think, says other teams seem to come out with a better first script, and the Packers adjust to things to set things straight. That's probably fair, which if you had to pick, it's pretty obvious what you'd pick, right? You want the team that's going to adjust and get right starting in the second quarter and move forward. But yeah, I mean, they just come out. I don't know if it's cold or what. And again, I think the biggest issue is the offensive line. And that's probably just a fresh defensive line against a team that doesn't have the greatest talent along the offensive line. But over time, as we do a good job of tiring out their defense, that's when it starts to balance out a little bit, and it's a little bit more of an even match. Jenkins might be one center pending Myers' injury. Probably not. I mean, he wasn't after once he went out in this game. Offensive third down conversion and OD red zone play needs to get better, but I'm still ecstatic. Bears still suck. 5-1 Rhino. I mean, they did get better, which is nice. They got some stops in the red zone. They also scored. I don't know. Did we ever not score? I don't think we were in the red zone on that field goal. Maybe we were. I don't know. But I mean, that was a big turnaround in my opinion. I'd have to look at the numbers. I'm not entirely sure, but I know we got. I shouldn't say I know. I'm pretty sure we got a stop in the red zone, didn't we? And we obviously scored a couple while we were in there, so at least it's better. Any word on how Josh Jackson, who we traded for Yadam, is doing according to PFF? I'll try to remember to check that out for the podcast for tomorrow. Jacob says Stokes had a quiet, good game. I would assume since we barely heard his name. That's kind of my thought. I mean, he gave up some passes, otherwise didn't hear anything, so I'll take it. It's also possible that Justin Fields just didn't throw to open guys, which we know was happening today, which was hilarious. Some kudos to Kenny on that one play for putting pressure in his face. But most quarterbacks, even with a guy coming, you just uncork that thing and just accept that you're going to get blasted. He decided to just try to run away, and it didn't work. Too old for this. Where are all the people who are angry with re-signing Jones at? The man is unstoppable. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to understand it a little bit. I was very surprised, obviously happy. I don't think anybody was really mad about it. We all love Jones too much to be mad about it, but it's hard to justify the money, but it really hasn't been. I think that the biggest issue is it's hard to justify drafting a guy in the second round if you're going to keep him, but whatever the situation is, we're in the situation now. We'll figure out the financials at some point, and whatever the repercussions of that are, what they are. But I think we're all very happy with the running back tandem that we've got, and that's an exciting thing. Brandon says, what's the status on Savage? I don't know, and we probably won't find out until about Wednesday. I know he didn't come back and play. He was concussed. Well, we'll find out if he's practicing or whatever, but usually on Wednesdays when you get a little bit more of the medical information, so hopefully it's good news. Still not perfect, but the Bears still suck. Agreed. 12 says, I don't know if you answered this already, but how do you think Stokes did? I think you asked this just as we were talking about it, but my only gauge for corners for the most part is, did I hear your name? And if I did, was it good or bad? I very rarely heard his name. He gave up a couple passes. Again, no real big passes that I saw, which is nice. I mean, he'll give up the 10-yard curl and come up and pop the guy right away, but he just hasn't seemed to just get beat a lot, like really badly beat on double moves or anything like that. It's just the guy's open, he goes up and tackles him. So, and he probably won't grade out super well because he gave up probably 3-4 receptions or something. But I don't really care all that much. He's doing enough. Again, this whole team is winning ugly, and I'm more than happy with that. Just find a way to get the job done, and I think he's doing that. I'd rather you give up the 10-yard pass and come up and clean it up than to give up the 40-yard pass because you're being way too aggressive. Gabriel says, I feel like we're definitely missing MVS. Not that we don't have receivers, but he's faster, and I feel like Rodgers might be missing him less on the deep shots. Yeah, I mean, just the threat of him is important because it forces teams to back off. Because if you don't account for that and he's running wide open down the field, Rodgers is going to hit him, right? So you have to have a guy back there to account for it, even if he's not a massive factor, even if it's not hard to take him away. Fine, but you still had to do it, and that's what we want because that opens everything up underneath. Zero says, feel like Fields is getting the Mayfield treatment with his coaches. Not entirely sure what that means, but I don't know if that has something to do with him just not being utilized or what, but I think that's on purpose. Nathaniel says, man, how brutal is it for opposing teams to get run over at the end of games by Dylan? Yeah, it's it's so critical for us and for a team to be able to do that. But yeah, that's the other thing. It is demoralizing. I mean, you got beat by Aaron Rodgers, you got beat by Devontae, you got beat by Aaron Jones, you got beat by Kenny. There's all these people that make you mad, and then now you get to watch this big giant bruising back that you really didn't care too much about. Maybe a little bit you were kind of worried, but all of a sudden this is the last thing you want to see in this situation, is a guy that was built for this exact moment. You know what I mean? Like, we've got a sliver of hope at winning this game, and it relies on our completely gassed defense stopping this 250-pound horse from taking 5-yard chunks, and they just couldn't do it. And just watching him, like you said, get those 5-6 yard chunks, you look over to the sideline and everyone's just completely defeated. The stands are completely quiet. It's a beautiful thing. Eric says, no Z, no Jair, no King, lost Savage. The defense still look competent. How scary do we get at full strength? Oh, I think it's stupid. I really do. I mean, can you imagine what this game would have been if we had Z and Savage and Stokes and King and Jair and Preston for the whole game? And I mean, just to be able to rotate these guys so that guys like Rashawn and Preston and whatnot are rested and able to go out and play. It's crazy to think that they might not have gotten to 14 points. Like, I just, it's pretty wild to think of that. And then, I mean, granted, they have injuries too. So if you give our guys back, you got to give theirs guys back. But I mean, they're doing a great job, and their ranking is just going to get all the more better. I mean, they're already almost a top 10 defense starting in week 2. At this point, they're going to continue to ascend, and that's with everybody hurt. So, I mean, we'll see who ends up coming back. I mean, Zadarius might have a pretty significant injury, and how does he come back? Jair may not come back. Savage may be out for a while. So, I mean, we're excited about guys coming back, but we're kind of going in the wrong direction. Every week we're like, oh, we're going to get this guy back and this guy back and this guy back. All we did was lose King and Savage, and, we lost a couple other guys for a couple plays. We're not getting guys back. We're losing guys faster than we're getting them back. Paula says, creative flip shovel touchdown pass to Lazard from the 1-yard line. Aaron Rodgers said that play was designed by Adam Stenovich. Pretty great coach. That's pretty exciting. You got the O-line coach doing that. What is going on upstairs? Sounds like they're bowling. No, and Aaron Rodgers even talked about wanting to get more aggressive and with things like that. And that's a tough thing. I mean, you had a guy firing off the edge that was right there who could have stuck his palm out and probably blocked that little shovel. And even, I mean, there's so much congestion in there. Rodgers hits that little tiny shovel pass, and then there's not a lot of room for him to go. You watch that replay in slow motion. It's like, I don't know if he's about to get that. Even on the replay, like, I don't know, he might not get it this time. But he's able to fight his way through. I think they're mopping with a baseball bat is what's happening. Matt says, when is MVS eligible to come back? I don't remember. Zero says, I don't see us standing a chance against Dallas or Tampa. I get it, but Dallas is far from perfect, especially their defense. And Tampa, I understand the reservations about Tampa, and clearly it's a very good football team. But they almost lost to the Eagles, so they're not exactly flawless. I do think they probably need to continue to progress and do better. You can't play 2.5 quarters. You got to give it 4 quarters. And, you can't have a completely flat first quarter where you can't run and you can't protect Aaron Rodgers and the guys aren't getting open. You can't do that. You got to kind of come out hot and stay hot if you're going to beat those teams, more than likely. But again, that's exactly what they've been doing is having that grit factor in play. And if not 4 quarters, they're finding a way, starting late, to just grind out the rest of the game. So we'll have to see. What did Dallas do? Oh, Dallas is losing right now to New England. So, I mean, they'll probably win the game. What in the heck is that noise? I think it's a vacuum. They're vacuuming hardwood. That's so loud. And then again, Tampa almost lost. It was 28-22 against Philadelphia, who is not a good team at all. I mean, they're giving away their players because they're basically giving up on the season. So, I completely understand it. They have much more high-quality players than what we've been seeing, especially on offense. But especially Dallas, I mean, their defense, that's going to be the worst defense we've seen since Detroit. Not saying they're terrible, but the defenses we've seen are much better than Dallas. So our offense is going to have some opportunities. Defense is going to have some challenges. Very good quarterback, real solid wide receivers, and of course Ezekiel Elliott playing at running back is going to be tough. But we'll see. I get it. I just wouldn't say we don't stand a chance. That's taking it too far. Jason says, since I didn't see the game, was it a legitimate offensive pass interference with Equinemius in the first half? No. Or was it another shady call by the officials? Heard some rumblings he got robbed. He did. I mean, first of all, they didn't say it was a touchdown at first, and then they said he pushed off. I mean, look, it's one of those things. The Bears probably had an iffy call in that holding call at one point, and it was kind of a similar situation where, I mean, his hands went like this, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't an extension, and the defender didn't stop and lurch forward. By the time he caught it, the defender was right there. And it's hard to justify there was a push-off, but there's no separation at the end of the push-off. And the defender was right there to make a play. I mean, at that point, I understand you saw hands like this, but give me a break. I mean, it was such a beautiful pass, such a beautiful catch. He got both feet down just barely. You know, beautiful plays like that should be allowed to be left alone if it was really close. Not like letter of the law nonsense. And there was just too much of that. There's way too much of these guys going, I don't know, it kind of looked like something. The Bears got robbed a bunch of times. The Packers got robbed a bunch of times. And it's just unnecessary. Keep it in your pocket until you absolutely know there was an issue. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that stuff. And yeah, I think that absolutely should have been a touchdown. Bananas Epic Gaming. The Packer game wouldn't have been that close if you had everyone the full time. All right. Matt says the OPI on EQ is trash. Total phantom call. Yeah, and again, you can see this. You can see hands like on his back, but there wasn't extension, which I think is part of the rule. You have to have extension. He didn't extend. He had his hands like this. You can't really see my arms. Be some point at which you see the guy lurching forward, and it just didn't happen. He continued back, and he ended up making a play. I think it was nonsense. Brambo with the $9.99 super chat says, thanks for doing the post game once again. You know what grinds my gears? 5 wide. That was not an OPI at all. I'm guessing those two things aren't related, but anyways, yeah, the OPI was it was just the center. I think letter of the law, you can understand that. He's trying to get past. I mean, he literally is grabbing the jersey, but he's not like pulling and he's not restraining him from getting past. It's just he's got his hands on him and he's pulling him. So could you say letter of the law that's holding? I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Same with the offensive pass interference, but there's no reason to call it. There's no reason to do that. I mean, I think the refs do a really bad job of trying to think what the purpose of the rule is and kind of interpreting, and maybe they're not supposed to interpret, but really think about that. How did what happened impact the game in a negative way? And is what you're doing a more negative impact than if you'd have just left it alone? I think the defender had an opportunity to make a play on the ball. He did. And he was right there. I mean, I understand if you see extension and you see the guy lurch forward and then the receiver goes back and there's separation. And then here's the thing. You say the separation was a result of a push-off. That's the purpose of the rule. There was no separation. It went basically right through the defender's hands, and Equinemius made a beautiful catch and got his feet down. Leave that alone. It's nonsense. Well, I saw his hands touch his back. So what? Well, so he put, no. So what? You didn't see him push, right? I know you didn't see him push. He didn't push the guy. He may have held his hands there to try to keep a little bit of space between the two, but he didn't push. And when he went up to get his hands up on the ball, guess what? There's no more separation. He has to lift his hands up to catch the ball. That's when the defender continued to close and get his hand up. There's no reason to be throwing those at all. And again, the referee crew that we had last week or the week before, whatever it was, where they just let stuff go. Some of the stuff should have been called. I would rather have that every time. Let them play. Just let him play. I'm so sick of the phantom calls. It's so nonsensical. And even when it goes like for the Bears against us, I mean, I'll take it. But it still just feels like it pollutes the whole game. If you win in a close game, it's like you don't feel like you won it. And then you got to deal with the whining Bears fans, Which that's the thing. I mean, it clearly we had some terrible calls go, and the biggest call was a touchdown to us. So whatever. Although I think the other play was a touchdown for them too, the Mustafa one. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Justin and Billy, thank you so much for liking the stream. Peter, if I didn't say so, thanks for liking it a while ago. Right. Eric says, only was able to catch a piece of the game. What was our starting offensive lineup? How does it shuffle when Bakhtiari is back? We kind of talked about that, but obviously Bach is left tackle. And then it's really just a question of who's right tackle. Is it going to be Billy Turner or is it going to be Elton Jenkins? I think it's going to be Elton because you want your best players to be playing tackle, and I think Billy is as good at guard, if not better. So why not just do that? But if not, then I think Elton probably stays on the left side at guard, and then somebody, whether it's a Runyon or whoever, ends up replacing Newman at right guard, I would assume, because Newman has not done a very good job. And then Myers, hopefully, if he comes back, then he's there. And maybe Patrick would play guard. If not, then Patrick stays at center. But it's hard to say what the starting offensive line is because you got to tell me who's all injured and who's not because the entire offensive line is at least a little bit injured. Zero says, would a sky judge solve a lot of the garbage phantom calls, no calls from the refs? I don't know why there's such a big reservation about just letting people in New York and a sky judge make those kinds of calls. You know what I mean? There's concern about the game slowing down or whatever. I don't care. I mean, it was kind of like I said last time where you're not allowed to look up at the board and see that was a bad call or that there should have been a flag. Why? Why not? Why can't you look up and see there was a blatant bad call and either pick up a flag or throw a flag and be like, yep, I can see it. That was a flag. Because it was. The NFL has this weird thing where we have to just leave bad calls be. And I don't know why that's the case. I'm not saying go back 3 plays ago and start over. At some point you move on, but if it's easily rectifiable, right? And why not give them tools? The screen up there is a tool. If there should have been a flag and the guy says, I don't know, I didn't see it, and the coach says, well, look, you can see it right there, and he says, oh, yep, you're right, throw the flag, what does that hurt? What does that damage in the game? Nothing. You want them to get the calls right. That's all we want. And if it's got to slow down a little bit, fine. And I'm not saying pause after every single play so that the sky judge can watch every player and just see. I just don't get it. And again, even with that, you throw a flag, just confirm it. Let the guy look at it. And what I want the guy to do, because a lot of times they'll just go with whatever the ref says. They don't like to contradict the refs. You know, that's why you got to have indisputable evidence. It would be nice to be able to have the guy in the sky or whatever we're going to call him just say, you know what, leave that alone. Just leave it alone. There's no reason to call that pass interference. That's a bad decision. I understand why you did it, but it's unnecessary. Pick up the flag. It's a touchdown. But that won't happen. Princess Thunderballs is in the house. What's going on, man? Says, I own you. I still own you. All caps. I got to go back and find that clip. I'm sure it's all over Twitter. If somebody wants to send that to me, that'd be great. Greg, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Greatly appreciated. If you're hanging out on YouTube, please like, please subscribe, please hit the little bell notification so you don't miss any lives. If you're on Facebook, please like, please follow the Facebook page and all that good stuff. Princess says, woo-ah, I love Rogers. I'm not sure if that's, I'm guessing it's not woo-ah, but I'm going with woo-ah. It's phonetic, man. Universal says Garvin played a heck of a game. He really did. He was fantastic. And we needed him because I don't think Rashawn was doing a ton. We need a guy off the edge to be able to help Kenny, and he absolutely did that. Matt says the refs have been trash in both college and the NFL. Some sort of accountability needs to be had. Here's the thing that we've been saying for years, by the way. The more rules we make, the worse it gets. And they keep making rules to try to fix it. You're just making it worse. We got to just start stripping that back a little bit and encouraging the refs to just leave it alone. First of all, the first rule should be, unless you 100% saw something, don't throw a flag, right? Because I would rather you say, it kind of looked like it, but I don't know for sure. And again, this would be a great time to call upstairs and be like, hey, I feel like I saw something. Can you confirm that for me? I don't know. Again, why would that be a problem? And then they look at it. And again, you probably have a guy, if you have a sky judge or whatever it is, he's down there calling, hey, throw a flag, this guy for what? I don't know, whatever. It's unbelievable that they're making it this hard to just fix things. But again, if we're not going to do anything else, we got to start pulling it back a little bit and stop calling so many penalties and stop making new rules because every time we do, we make the game worse. And then stop encouraging more flags. We pretend that we don't want to slow the pace of the game down, but yet we keep making more rules and throwing more flags. Well, pick a lane. Benny says, I will drink the tears of Chicago once again. Chicago fans are never happy anyways. Bears still suck. We own you. That's gonna be such a huge thing, man. I gotta get on these t-shirts. I'm excited. I'm gonna get a good one too. I'm gonna find a really good designer. I've got a really cool idea for a Devontae one, which I think there's already some shirts, but I want the style to be different, and a really good Aaron Jones one, which again, the general style is out there, but I've got one in particular. So it's Devontae with the crown, Aaron Jones with the sunglasses, and then I got to come up with an I own you thing. I got to go watch the clip. Maybe there's like a face that's going to be out there or something that needs to be recognizable. But I've got 3 shirts. I haven't done a shirt in a long time, but I got to get that rocking. Plus, I just want to get some for myself. So just making myself. Daniel says, still waiting on the traffic rants. I know, I messed that up. I haven't done that, and I should because they make me mad every time I leave my house. HIQ says, I still own you. Blaine says, Sky Judge should have a T-shirt cannon and can throw flags. That'd be pretty hilarious. Just the next play's about to go, and you just hear, thunk. What the heck? Oh, Sky Judge. Caden says, what do you think the biggest difference between this year and last year is for Kenny? I have no idea. I really don't, but Kenny's just everything we wanted him to be. He's everything he was, 2 years ago or whatever when he was last dominating. So it's just awesome to see that he's kind of back to old Kenny. I guess the biggest difference is Pettin's gone, because I really think, I actually thought it was Mike Daniels leaving that kind of caused him to decline because he doesn't have some extra help. But Pettin and the way that he did things, Kenny just was not the same with Pettin. And now that Pettin's gone, immediately the guy is a top 10, borderline top 5 defensive tackle right now. All right. Universal Truth says, so glad they took out Yadam after the first drive. We usually would have kept him in there and watched him get torched. Again, great point as far as making adjustments, which the Packers seem to hate doing. But they saw a problem and they just fixed it. And it fixed the whole game, in my opinion. Because, yeah, Yadam was playing terribly, tackling a guy. And that ball was so unbelievably overthrown. But yet he had like a pass interference already. He was like grabbing him. And he's like, no, this isn't good enough. I'm going to tackle him too. It was just the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Goose says, I think he was complaining about how much 5 wide we ran, especially early on. I feel like that was a really old comment. Universal Truth says they're moving Kenny up and down the line. So that was one of the things that was mentioned as far as what the expectation for this defense is going to be, is allowing these guys to be a little bit more independent, but also moving around a lot, not just moving straight ahead, but kind of moving laterally and whatnot. That was something that was expected to happen, and it sounds like it is happening, which is pretty exciting. So anyways, guys, I'm caught up with the comments. It's been an hour stream already, which is pretty shocking, and I do want to get some food and get podcast recorded because I want to get to bed a little bit early because I am Princess Thunderballs with a $4.99 super chat. Sneaks it in at the end there. What happened to Preston? I missed what happened. Also, thanks for the shout out. Also, I still own you. I don't know what happened to Preston. He got hurt. I don't know if he made his way back in or not, but I heard that he ended up getting hurt and was questionable, was the last that I heard. So anyways, now I think we're done, unless anyone wants to sneak another one in there, another $4.99 or whatever. But anyways, again, I want to get this podcast rolling for tomorrow. So thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it.